There's a very specific moment in New England when winter finally loosens its grip and the spring fills the air. Leaf litter, wet earth, cool air, and also garlic. For just a few weeks each spring, these wild leeks, also called ramps, appear across hardwood forests throughout the northeast region of North America. Welcome to Following Breadcrumbs, where we explore foods tied to history, literature, and ecology, and also follow the unexpected little trails connected to them. Today, we're making a rustic ramp and potato soup using responsibly foraged wild leeks from the forests of Massachusetts. And while it simmers, we're exploring the hidden ecological role of spring ephemerals, those brief, fragile plants that take advantage of a narrow window of spring sun that hits the forest floor before the canopy closes overhead. Because these little onions are not only flavoring soup, they're part of a bigger seasonal strategy. Leek and potato soup exists in dozens of forms across Europe and North America. From French pottage parmentier to Irish and Welsh variations, this soup is peasant food in the best possible sense: inexpensive, comforting, and deeply satisfying. But before cultivated leeks became standard grocery store vegetables, people often relied on wild alliums gathered in the spring. For many parts of the U.S., that means wild leeks. Long before colonists came to North America, the indigenous peoples have treated them as a fleeting culinary treasure. Allium trichocum are native woodland plants closely related to onions, garlic, and chives. They've been harvested by indigenous communities in eastern North America for centuries and later became important seasonal foods for settlers emerging from long winters with limited fresh produce. That sharp, garlicky flavor was one of the first fresh green foods available after months of preserved and bland winter diets. All this meant that ramp season became a big event, and honestly, it still is.
For our recipe, we'll use traditional ingredients:
Wild foraged ramps, potatoes, celery, homemade stock, butter, a little cream, bay leaf, bacon garnish because I like bacon, and maybe some fresh bread on the side. Before we dive into cooking, let's head out to grab some ramps. In recent decades, ramps have gained huge popularity among high-end restaurants, leading to a ramp craze or gold rush mentality for some foragers. Unlike invasive plants, ramps grow and recover very slowly. A wild leek seed can take 7 years to become a mature plant, and entire colonies can be decimated surprisingly quickly. So the goal isn't maximizing how much we take, as some people do. The goal is leaving the forest healthy enough that this patch is still thriving for years to come. A good rule is to never clear a patch and to harvest lightly enough that somebody walking through afterwards might not even notice. Some good guidelines for foraging are: 1. Only take 1 leaf per plant or 1 in 10 plants or less. 2. Take only from dense patches. 3. Avoid taking entire bulbs unless you truly need them. Quick note, we will need some, so we will only take isolated, mature plants over a large area, leaving the majority of clusters undisturbed. Of course, always make sure foraging is legal where you are. Some public lands prohibit plant removal entirely. So now we have our ramps. Let's start on our soup. First, we'll clean and prep the ramps carefully. Woodland plants come with woodland dirt. We separate the bulbs from the leaves because they cook differently. We will keep those aside to make a pickle, just like you can with pearl onions.
Why does the bacon look like a rack of ribs?
Go on, Jesse. Then we'll slowly simmer the greens with some celery and garlic in butter until fragrant, before adding stock, potatoes, and bay leaves. And immediately, the kitchen smells delicious. In go the diced potatoes and stock. And while this simmers, I ask myself, why do these plants appear when they do? Ramps belong to a group of plants called spring ephemerals. These woodland species emerge extremely early in spring, before the forest canopy fills with leaves, and that timing is everything. In summer, a mature hardwood forest floor is surprisingly dark. Trees absorb most available sunlight, so spring ephemerals evolved a clever strategy. Grow fast, photosynthesize aggressively, store energy underground, then disappear before the canopy even closes. It's kind of a get-out-quick scheme. Ramps do this alongside other plants, like trout lilies, bloodroot, spring beauties, Dutchman's breeches, and trilliums, among others. For a few brief weeks, the forest floor becomes a special temporary ecosystem. This class of plants are incredibly important. Early pollinators rely on them. Soil organisms interact with them. They even stabilize spring moisture cycles. But ramps are especially vulnerable because humans love eating them. The culinary trend fueling the harvesting of bulbs faster than they can naturally regenerate can devastate colonies for decades, so sustainable harvesting matters. The temporal nature of the plant is what makes them special. They're a seasonal conversation with the forest, and then they vanish. So, back to the soup. Once everything has been melded in the broth for a bit, I remove the bay leaves and everything gets blended until smooth. Not perfectly silky, just enough to keep some texture. So the flavor profile of this is actually a lot more complex than, the simple ingredients might let on. It's savory and green, a little bit sweet, but also salty. All in all, it's got a complex flavor that melts together. It tastes almost alive, like something you've been waiting all winter for. I forgot to mention, if you can't forage ramps ethically in your area, cultivated leeks are a traditional ingredient too, and they taste pretty much the same. In reality, though, the most important ingredient in this soup, the real magic, is the timing. This soup can only be obtained in its natural form in the spring. It's a spring soup. And that's something modern food culture sometimes forgets. Seasonality isn't just about flavor, it changes emotional meaning. The first green things after winter feel important because they are important, ecologically, historically, and psychologically. So, thank you for watching Following Breadcrumbs. And remember, sometimes the most interesting stories aren't hidden in books. Sometimes they're growing quietly beneath last year's leaves. Thanks for joining us in Following Breadcrumbs. If you enjoyed this video and would like to join us for more, feel free to hit the subscribe button so you can follow our channel. Also, if you have any suggestions or ideas for future videos, any dishes, literary or historical, that you would like us to try, feel free to suggest them in the comments section.